What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another Indy Investor Pod. This is going to be part two with Elizabeth Maora Sickels. I'm super excited on the last episode, we talked a little bit about Indiana State RIA, some different legislation, some things like that. Today, or on this episode, we're going to jump into the Airbnb market and what's going on here in Indy. So with that, I'm super excited to have her on here. We're Indy investors talking Indy investing. And with that, let's get on with the show. So, all right, part two with Elizabeth Maora Sickels. So, like I said, first time with a two-part guest on here, back to back. And what better person to have on here with me is Elizabeth Maora Sickels, who, like I said, she's known as a couple different nicknames around here: Super E, the Executive Goddess, all these different names and stuff. Some she's given to herself, some other people have given her. But no, so thank you so much for joining me again, Elizabeth. So, now we're going to talk. We talked about Indiana State RIA on the last episode. Now we're going to talk into Airbnb, which is your expertise of what you're getting into here in Indianapolis, kind of where you honed your craft and where you kind of found your niche here in Indianapolis. So thank you so much. And I know that I'm just going to kind of throw it out there because I know this is the big question that everybody wants to know. The big question that everybody has for any Airbnb investor is, how did COVID-19 affect the Airbnb market specifically here in Indianapolis, and kind of how's it looking? Are we going to be okay with it? Was it really as bad as people said? So how's Indianapolis looking for Airbnbs right now?
So March 11th was a horrible day. It's when they canceled the basketball tournament and we got cancellations galore. So March and April were horrible for short-term rentals everywhere. Indianapolis was no exception because so many conventions were canceled. And we get through April and then it's just like the floodgates were open. So part of the reason that has caused that, so we have picked up 4 more properties now and we're slammed. We are booked between 90 to 100% every weekend. That started happening about mid-May, and we've been raising our prices every week. So what's really cool is that we have some new demographics of guests. So we have guests that, number one, before would have never stayed in a short-term rental because they were hotel people all of their lives. But now they don't want to go to hotels because there's so much traffic in and out of hotels. They want a private residence. For us, we do all contactless check-in. We use remote locks, so they get a digital code every time. So people absolutely love that. We also, instead of folks having big vacations on the beach somewhere, they're coming to visit family here in Indianapolis. Yeah. And then the other thing that happened was we have a lot of friends too, because they haven't been able to see their friends. So they're coming here instead of going other places. So we've picked up a lot of different demographics that we normally don't have that much of, so to speak.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I know. And that's what I see, just a ton of people, whether it's Indianapolis or even in other people's home cities, like all my buddies like posting, hey, staycation this weekend, just because we need to get out. We need to do something. So, and I know that's what my wife and I, that's the same thing. We're like, hey, we just need to get out and do something here in Indianapolis. Let's go stay somewhere and at least get out of the house for a little bit. So no, that's great. Let's go back to, so when you guys coming out of March and April and kind of what happened with that. So did you guys basically, to just kind of get some people in there, did you guys have to drop prices for a little while? How did that play out? And how did you work with with that part of it of hey, we need to drop the prices. We need to try to just get people in here. So how does it go about when you're working with the owners of these properties, of having that conversation of like, hey, we need to try to do anything, something like, what's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. So just one other thing too, specifically with the short-term rentals here in Indy, in 2019, we saw so much more inventory. And then what happened with COVID was we saw the opposite. So many people took their properties off of short-term and turned them into traditional. That's another reason why we've been able to raise our rates so much. So I just want to say too, that we're not at the level that we were had we had all the conventions, because we can charge up to 5 to 8 times more during those conventions. So I just want to say that, but we have gotten some pretty stellar bookings. So when it hit, I was in constant communication with our clients to say, this is what's going on now. This is what we're doing. We lowered rates absolutely, because I mean, my clients needed money. I needed money coming in
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't make money if we don't have guests. And what happened was we got that type of clientele, or that type of guests, so to speak. So that made on call being really fun. Um, but the big thing for that is always, let your clients, let your people know exactly what's going on and what you're doing, because there's always something you can do. And and I gave all of my clients the option, hey, do you want to turn these into traditional rentals? Like, here are your options. And in some cases we had conversations with them and they said, nope, I'm going to stay the course. And we're seeing some really, in some cases, some really great benefits to that.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I want to get into that a little bit of just kind of the relationship. So it is with, the property owner. And then also if you have, somebody managing your Airbnbs or whoever that is. So how does that, what's some tips you have or some advice you have for that owner of somebody that owns that Airbnb? They're working with a property manager, someone that's managing them, whether it's, company, individual, whoever it is. What's some advice you have for them of just kind of how, some things to work on that relationship, how to make sure you're not kind of overstepping, there's, I know it's always when, just in the rental market in general and working with property managers, always like, there's some property managers like, no, I want to have a conversation every week with the owners. Or some people are like, hey, just let me do my thing. So what are some things that you kind of have advice of just how to kind of work on that relationship and kind of build that relationship with your property owners?
Yeah, I think number one, I like to make it really clear kind of how we work whenever we have new clients coming on, and the fact that we do everything. So you trust us to do the right pricing, make the right decisions for maintenance, all that type of thing. So my clients know that we're very hands off, that we are your peace of mind. So if I'm contacting you, it's for one of two reasons. It's either there's a maintenance issue over $250, or there's somebody super cool staying in your property. So we always like to let them know that. So I think, they know they don't have to worry about anything with us. COVID was completely out of the scope of anything. So in that case, I wanted to communicate with them more and let them know, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is everything that's going on. So my advice is just make sure that you set expectations up front. Whenever you have a new client, this is how we operate. This is how it works best. It's funny because I just had a potential new client say, well, we want to be involved in this and this, and what about the pricing? And I'm like, oh, well, we take care of all of that. And this is why we take care of that. So, and some clients want to be more than involved, and that just doesn't work with us. So
yeah.
you gotta let us do our job.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the same thing for everybody of just like, hey, if you're in your position, like you're not every owner that has an Airbnb is going to want to work with you or should work with you. And you don't want to work. It's the same case. You got to make sure that you are, excuse me, that you are finding that right person that you connect with, that right person that, hey, we have the same mission. We have the same core values. I understand the way they want to do things. So it's the same thing with property managers. Just don't go with, oh, my buddy uses this person, so I'm going to use this person. It should be like, hey, let me sit with them. Let me interview with them. Let me talk to somebody else too. Maybe there's somebody else. So I just think it's really important to kind of understand of there is a relationship there. There needs to be a connection there as well. And a trust level that kind of goes along with it of being able to work with that person and understand where they're coming from and how you guys are, and how you're going to communicate, I think is a big thing too, of just how that communication piece fits into all that. Let's get into a little bit about just kind of with Indianapolis. Granted, we're a lot of the conventions and the sporting things, they're not here right now. They're going to come back in some way. We don't know what that way is going to be. It's going to be a little bit different, and kind of go from there. But let's even just saying that, hey, we're going to have a piece of that. Some of that's going to come back here. That's what kind of drives Indianapolis and actually makes it a really attractive place for Airbnbs. So can you touch on that a little bit? Because I know we've had a couple conversations before too. I know at some parts during the year and things like Indianapolis is like rated 5th when it comes to Airbnbs of people traveling here and things, which is, I think is amazing because a lot of people don't think of Indianapolis like that. So why is Indianapolis such a great place for Airbnbs or for people just to come travel to visit?
Well, number one, we have so much rich culture in Indianapolis. We have amazing restaurants. The business scene is phenomenal. We have medical, we have aerospace, we have automotive, We have all the sports going on, even if we can't be there in person to watch them. So we have every segment. And that's thanks for asking that question too, Brian, because the other thing that we had come back, so our business travelers started coming back the very beginning of June. And so now I would say about 35 to 40% right now are business travelers with
Yeah.
us, which is normally it's about 85 to 90%, but we are super happy just for that part of it. So people are coming here to Indianapolis for all those reasons, and also construction. We have two sets of guests staying with us. One set is working at Lilly. We had another set that just left. They were with us working at Lilly, and then we have a set of guests working at a Walgreens that they're going to be with us for 2 weeks. They come next week.
Yeah, I say that's what I mean. That's one of the things that is huge in Indianapolis, and just is so attractive too. Of just like with the amount of growth that Indianapolis is having with whether it's new builds or businesses like that. There's a lot of businesses that are coming here to set up shop in Indianapolis because it's cheaper to do it in some other states. It's cheaper to operate a company here in Indianapolis than it is New York or California or Texas even and stuff. So they're coming here, and when they come here at first, there are a lot of businessmen that need places to stay, and that's such a great market. I think a lot of people forget when it comes to Airbnbs. They always think the people that are traveling and the people that are on vacation and stuff, but there's a lot of people within that business realm that do need Airbnbs too and are staying in Airbnbs, which is perfect for Indianapolis, which is awesome. So let's get into a little bit of if I am looking to pick up my first Airbnb property, how do I go about analyzing that? Is this a good one? Because some wholesaler, Brian said, oh, this is a great Airbnb. Don't go by wholesaler. Don't go by what Brian says. I can give you input. But what are some things that they need to be looking at of like, hey, I think this is the great spot for an Airbnb. This is what I want to do. So how do they go about analyzing that property?
Sure. So with short-term rentals, you have a lot more expenses than you do in a traditional rental. So you need to make sure that you include your consumables, so toilet paper, paper towel, things like that, your utilities, and then also lawn care and snow removal. So make sure that whenever you're looking at your numbers that you get all of the expenses in there. That's very important. Location is also key. So we're actually in all of our properties but one. We're only in 8 neighborhoods now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's huge, absolutely huge. You also want to look at your bed and bathroom count. So we have with a 3-bedroom, you want at least 2 full bathrooms. We have some 3 1-bedroom houses, but the nightly rate on just having that second bathroom is 20% higher, and in some cases more than that. So your bed bath count is very important.
Yeah. So what are some other things too of just like when you are planning on, I guess, renovating it and putting all your furniture and things like that in, how important is it when you're looking at kind of that return on investment of, hey, I need to make this look super cute versus just like, hey, I just want to make it livable. Like how much is that how important is that when it is, I guess, when you're looking at like, I need to put more money in up front to get that return on investment in the back?
It's huge. And so we do furnishing and decorating for the properties. But sometimes we'll have a client say, oh, well, you get your stuff at IKEA, right? No, we don't get our stuff at IKEA. IKEA is great for your personal property, but this is commercial use.
Yeah.
So, while you don't need to spend $20,000, of course, on a couch, but you also don't want to just go to Goodwill and buy a $150 couch. It's always, it's always what you get out of it, the quality that you put into it. So that is very important.
Those are always my favorite things too that you always post. I love the post when you guys are doing a decoration day or you guys are doing a renovation day, because if you don't follow Elizabeth on Facebook, I definitely recommend it to connect with her that way, because it's always fun when she does the renovation days or the remodel days, because she just has like 2 or 3 SUVs like just filled up with all kinds of stuff, and it's always I find that very amusing and very fun to check out. So thank you for posting that stuff. So what about we talked a little bit about kind of putting that in there on the front end of making sure that you have commercial grade stuff, making it look cute, making it look things. How important is like that theme? Is that like, or I guess is it? I know you do themes in your in your houses and things that you're managing. So how important is that versus maybe one that doesn't? Do you see kind of the difference in the bookings versus like a product that is themed versus one that isn't?
Yes, because we're looking to see what the competition is doing and their pricing and stuff. It makes such a huge difference. People want personalization, they want customization now. Anybody can walk into. So I will say, I totally understand why hotel rooms are all the same, especially now that we're doing all of our own cleaning as well, and disinfecting and
Yep.
sanitizing. But we really want to give our guests an experience when they come to Indianapolis, and that's why we theme our properties. We want them not just to say, "Oh yeah, well I stayed in Airbnb, or I stayed in a Verbo." No, like I stayed in an upscale Dog's Life. I stayed in Lux on Lexington. So it adds to their story, and it adds a little flair to their life.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I love it. I mean, that's what my wife is definitely in that realm of like, hey, we need to stay in the cutest place and things like that. But that's how I look at things as well. That's how, like, I've kind of had that, taken that on. So I think it is really important. Let's talk a little bit about, so when you guys when you're going, I know you mentioned that you're only in like 8 neighborhoods right now and stuff like that. So when you're, kind of back into this analyzation part, when you're looking at where to put an Airbnb and you saying, or, VRBO, just a vacation rental in general. I always keep saying Airbnb, and I do apologize for any of the other companies out there, but vacation rental. So when you're saying like 8 neighborhoods, what all plays into that? Like, what do you guys consider a neighborhood? How do you look at that when you're analyzing properties or advising some of your property owners if they're picking up another property?
Sure. So I would say the biggest thing is that the street that you're on is very well taken care of. So I should say that we're in A and B neighborhoods, because we're in some. So we've got some properties in East Fountain Square where the streets are coming along really nicely. So look at what's going on your street. Look at the rehabs. What are the condition of the properties? Do your neighbors take care of the properties?
Yeah.
I have to be really careful about what I say, because obviously I'm a licensed realtor. So like, I can't say walkability or safe. Like I legally can't use that wording.
Yeah.
But you can certainly see just by looking around. Also, my immediate team is all females. So I want to make sure that wherever our properties are, I don't have to worry about us going in there for whatever reason.
Right.
So definitely look at that. You can look at all of the ARVs. So around you, what are the properties selling for? Because that will tell you also what's going on for that area.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about like so you take maybe your average vacation rental, it's not your super bougiest one that you have, because I know you got some of those and stuff, which is great. Let's say we take like, just if, investor, that average vacation rental that they would have here in Indianapolis. What could they maybe expect on what that return, or would they be able to make kind of each month, what that return on investment would be if they do have a vacation rental here in Indy?
Sure. So the rule of thumb is that you will gross 2 times what you would a traditional rental. So, if your traditional is $1,000, you're going to gross $2,000. What happened pre-COVID with the conventions, is that we would be quite a bit higher for those months. So what's going on now is just the fact that we're able to raise the rates quite a bit. So I would say, to be conservative, only use 1.5 times instead of 2 times, as just an estimate for what you can make as a short-term rental.
Okay. And what like number wise, what would that be here in Indianapolis? Like, what would you think if you had, let's say you take something here in Fountain Square that I know I could probably, you say a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house down in Fountain Square, in a pretty, in a decent area and stuff like that, I might be able to rent that out for $1,500 a month, maybe around there. So what I'm looking at, so would I be able to get, close to, 3,000, or would it be just right at that 1.5 for number wise here in Indianapolis in an area like Fountain Square? Because I think a lot of people, in-state, out-of-state investors know Fountain Square, what that is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Just to be conservative, I would do the 1.5. Yeah. But what's interesting, gotcha, Brian, is that like this month, while we don't have necessarily fans for the Indy 500, we still have family members coming in. So we have a mom and dad of one of the IndyCar drivers staying with us.
Yeah.
It's a huge booking. It's a $10,000 booking. It's our biggest single booking ever. And the reason is because we left the prices high for the Indy 500. We also have a lot of people that are staying with us just for 1 month at a time. So like we have a 1.5 on the east side, that we rented for $1,700 a month, and it's a quadplex. And our traditionals, because we manage 2 traditionals there, it's $1,200 a month.
Yeah.
And this was 2 guys working a bazillion hours. So it's really, so like, most of my clients, like they're doing pretty well right now.
Right.
But we don't know what's going to happen, come winter time either. So I
Yeah.
just want to be conservative for all the listeners out there.
Yeah. So I got to ask this now, who is if you're allowed to say, who is your most famous person that you've had, or most well-known person that you've had stay in one of your vacation rentals?
Our most well-known.
This is your opportunity to name drop a little bit.
Gosh. I'm not able to disclose that, unfortunately.
Okay.
But I would love to. I would really love to.
We'll just say that whoever it was really, really cool. And Elizabeth
Yeah.
was very excited about it. So no, good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about, you've mentioned, just the little things that when you do have a vacation rental of things that you're not going to have in your traditional rental. So you get to, all the paper products, all the, just kind of the niceties that kind of go along with the place. But then also you have like the cleaning fees are going to be, that's something separate that a lot of people maybe like, how often are they cleaning, and why there is like really a cleaning fee if I book on Airbnb, like all that stuff. So let's kind of talk a little bit about those. So managing that aspect of it, of, hey, if I'm trying to do this on my own, or I'm working with a property manager, of knowing kind of, hey, how these cleaning fees work in with it, or I have a separate cleaning crew. I know you just started your own cleaning company, I'm assuming, because, hey, I don't want to work with other crews. I might as well kind of do this on my own and take this onto our thing as well, which would probably be easier. I know it's probably more time consuming now because you're just kicking it off, but how just kind of, let's talk about that relationship too, of just kind of all the different little contracting things that pop up, of having people on call that can fix something that breaks, or working with those cleaning crews. So kind of working with some of those third-party vendors, of how that, you kind of just, some advice you have on that from a vacation rental standpoint.
Absolutely. So it's even more important with your short-term rentals that you have. So, I mean, we're on call 24/7, that you have maintenance that's available almost all the time, because with a traditional rental, your tenant, they're going to be there. But with a short-term rental, you have a small amount of time to make something right, because otherwise you're refunding money. You could be, if you have to put them up in another property, that's just more expense. So time is super, super critical. So I think it's very important to value your team, whether they work directly for you or if they are third party. That's the biggest thing. Appreciate their skill, their time. So I'm changing from this, but when I get the bills from my contractors, I pay them that day, because I want them to know they're important. And when I call, like I'm calling because I need you like now, or I need you really soon. So just that urgency is imperative with short-term rentals, and having those really good relationships. So just on the cleaning side, we do deep cleans twice a year for our property. So I just took on the cleaning. So it's Elizabeth Maora cleaning. So EMC 3 weeks ago, and we're doing, the properties are disinfected, they're sanitized, they're cleaned after, obviously, also after every guest is out. And we're doing the high touch points areas, light switches, remotes, that type of thing as well now.
Yeah. So from that vacation rental standpoint, have like the stipulations to come out, like, like, hey, we need to make sure, I'm sure that's something, I know you run a high class, organization. So it's probably like, hey, you're probably getting all that stuff in anyway. But just like that extra emphasis on that is like how important, I know I shouldn't really say that, but like how is it different now than it was like with pre-COVID, I guess, or did that change anything at all?
We had very high cleaning standards
Yeah.
pre-COVID. The thing that has changed is that we're getting all the high touch points.
Right.
That's the big thing.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, so how do you handle like a negative review? I know, as far as, when in business in general, I never kind of thought about it before, of how important reviews really are, but that's what I do. Anytime I buy something, anytime I go anywhere, like I'm always looking at the reviews and realize how important that is working within a business. It is important for, simple quarters, simple wholesaling, for us to have all these positive reviews. But I'm sure you could have 100 fantastic reviews and have that one little negative review that's just like, man, what did we do? Or how do we do this? So how do you handle that? Or how do you balance, kind of that negative that might come with all the positive stuff that's happening?
Yeah, so we have, just for context, we have over 1,500 reviews, and our average is 4.8 out of 5-star. So we work very hard, but we've gotten, just recently, actually, we got some really interesting reviews, and one of our guests tried to extort us. So they said was, and this is all in text messaging, is, hey, if you give us a full refund, we'll give you a really nice review. Well, that's illegal.
Yeah.
So in some cases, so for that, in that case, we're fighting that review. And, we try, we always want our guests to feel comfortable and happy where they stayed. There are some people that you can't please. And what I told the team is that we are not cowtailing, just like this guest. I'm not giving you 3 full nights, especially when you wanted a late checkout and then you won't leave my property. So clearly it's not that bad, or you would have left early.
Yeah.
So I think that's, part of it too, is that just as, you see different reviews, and, you're dealing with the general public, as so they're not always, fair, or even, well, we'll just say they're not always fair in some of the reviews. So you get really thick skin, even though I will tell you, sometimes I do take them personally, because, I just love what I do. My team loves what they do. So we take but you just have to remember, at the end of the day, that everybody's different. You don't know what people are going through. But I would just encourage, if you're a manager, or you have your own short-term rentals, or you're looking into this, just know that you're not going to be able to please everybody. But as long as, the majority of people know that, you're here for them, you have a quality product, that's the main thing.
Yeah. You don't have like a separate Facebook account that you like blast them and stuff like that on there. That's good. So no, thank you so much. So many great tips, so much great advice when it comes to short-term rentals here in Indianapolis and stuff. Elizabeth, do you have any kind of last bit of advice, or last tip that you want to throw out there as we end the show?
I would say stay the course. So no matter what's going on, we don't even know what's going to happen in the next few months. But if you do have a business, and maybe you're thinking, oh gosh, like, now's the time to sell, what should I do? Just, make sure you know your numbers, and stay the course, keep making plans, keep going towards your goals, because one day, hopefully you're going to reach them, or at least work towards them.
So awesome. And Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate you and your business, what you do, but just you as a person, especially. What is the best way if somebody wants to reach out to learn more about what you do, your company, or what's the best place for them to find you or to connect with you?
Absolutely. So two places. You can go to our website, which is elizabethmaorallc.com. You're also welcome to email me directly. My personal email address is elizabeth@elizabethmaora.com, and I'd be happy to connect with you and help you however I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'll make sure I include that when I put these out and stuff. So people will be able to just click on the links, hopefully, and it'll be good. I might forget, but somebody will remind me when those in the episode. So no, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate you, like I said. And with that, that's a wrap. And we'll see you with next episode of the Indy Investor Pod. Indy Investors talking Indy investing. Take care.
Thank you.